It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to Hacksaw's Headlines, our Thursday podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, John Riley, and we welcome you as we go towards a great sports weekend. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you. You got projects, they've got materials, and you need ideas. Go to DIXIELINE Lumber. And by North County Eye Center, Poway Escondido. I don't care where you live in Southern California, these are the people to do business with when you need help with your eyes. And through the month of July, they are offering a free eye exam. North County Eye Center, book it, Poway and Escondido. John Riley, good afternoon. Boy, we got a lot of topics on the table. Aren't you glad you're not out in left field today? It's about 98 degrees here in Southern California. We're going a lot of different directions. Item one.
We're going to talk baseball. I mean, the state of the game is on the list here, Lee.
Yeah, lots to cover, lots to talk about. We're coming off the All-Star game. It was a pitcher's duel, a couple of big hits along the way. I thought it was really fun. Before we go to the topics there in the notebook, I just want to mention something. I watched the thing. You watch Shohei Ohtani hit the 3-run home run. You see him run the bases, throwing his hands up in the air. There's a joy to the way he plays the game. Right. I thought that was so cool as a pronouncement, how much fun. And I think a lot of these guys during the courses of the interviews in the Midsummer Night's Classic said, hey, we're having a lot of fun with the guys we compete against, we don't necessarily get to hang with. And Ohtani just kind of covered it all. He's flapping his arms in the air, rounding second base, going to third base, and pump fist him. That was cool. Felt so good for Jerks and Profar. Career best season. What a neat experience for a guy that was unemployed back in December and January. And how about the kid? You think Jackson Merrill was amped? First pitch, line drive. First pitch, next at bat, infield hit. He saw 2 pitches. He swung at 2 pitchers. He was obviously amped. And the best feeling aside from Ohtani was Robert Suarez. Think about the road he has traveled to become the Padres closer and to become an all-star. Rejected and released Mexican League, went abroad to Japan, had to reinvent himself, became a relief pitcher. Padres saw something special. He's on the mound, throwing gas, throwing heat, striking out the only 2 batters he faced, and retired. That's a cool story about a self-made man. So just off the top, that was my impression of what I saw the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Profar thing is great, especially him with his kid that was there with him. Merrill, I mean, he smoked that ball to left, that line drive. Good for him. I think he's like the 4th youngest player in Major League history to have a base hit in an All-Star game. I mean, he's got a great future.
And the Suarez thing, isn't that neat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that guy deserves everything he's getting right now, all the accolades, because he had to take the long road.
So you don't miss Josh Hader?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, Houston, you can keep him.
Okay, let's go to topics on the table. We're going to go a lot of different directions here. Trade deadline, 2 weeks out. Burning question, what price the Padres are going to pay? We've talked a bit about names on the trade block right now, and the one that I think they should pursue, though it's in the division, is the Colorado Rockies and Cal Quantrill. This morning, 2 new names surfaced. Evidently, Patrick Corbin, journeyman left-hander, who's pitched in a wretched situation in Washington, yet is pretty competitive. What do you throw, 7 shutout innings against the Padres a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, he did.
Patrick Corbin is out there, and a new name. It looks like Texas is going to start selling off players because they've had such a bad season with injuries. Nathan Eovaldi. Outside of Quantrill, I think Eovaldi is probably the most quality starter that could be out there. Now, that being said, you've also got a situation where other teams, a.k.a. the Dodgers, if they find out that Eovaldi's available, they might make a bid. So the Padres, are they going to be the first ones to jump in the water and make a deal? Are they going to be willing to pay the price or overpay to maybe get Quantrill in Colorado or get Eovaldi? Sorry, I don't want Sean Manaea. I don't know whether Zach Eflin in Tampa Bay is totally healthy. They were unwilling to pay a 4-for-1 price to get Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. So 2 weeks out, I'm focused on the Rockies right-hander, or maybe the name just surfaced on Thursday morning, Nathan Eovaldi. Reaction?
Eovaldi would be great, but I can't imagine that Texas would be in sell mode. I mean, they're the defending champs. I would think that ownership and the fans there are hoping to qualify for the playoffs somehow, some way.
But so many injuries, payroll is really high. I don't know how much more they can take on in terms of getting a quality acquisition. So that's topic one. Topic two, robo-umps. This came as a bit of a surprise. Commissioner Rob Manfred's State of the League address just sounds off about what baseball is thinking about. We know already in 2025 there will be use of computer strike zones on replay challenges on a ball or strike count. We think that baseball is going to give each manager 3 challenges per game on balls and strikes. However, Manfred just indicated during the State of the League address that they're going to experiment in the Cactus League and in the Grapefruit Circuit with the automated strike zone, with the robo-ump in spring training games. They think they have the technology that makes it work. They've done it in the minor leagues. They say the technology on getting calls correct is within 1/100th of an inch on the black. Now, Major League Baseball, we're still talking about wicked movement of pitches, but evidently this robo-ump thing will be experimented. Now, that being said, before they can rubber stamp it for approval, they got to negotiate with Tony Clark and the union. And there's probably going to be pushback on that because Tony Clark pushes on everything. And they have to negotiate with the Umpires Association because they're going to degrade the responsibility of the umpires, although Angel Hernandez is gone and the moving strike zone with him is gone. So do you like the experiment idea in spring training, or would you just rather just have the challenge system, not have a lot of interference with the games, and then leave the human element behind home plate without Angel Hernandez?
I used to, a long time ago, thought the human element was part of what made baseball special, but I was wrong. I want calls called accurately. So if they're going to transition for a year or two with a challenge system, that's okay, but they've got to get to the 100% robo ump, and you could still have an ump back there to handle subjective issues, call safe at the plate, that sort of thing. But let's just try to get to robo-ump as quickly as we can because it's so frustrating. I can't imagine the players would object, but the umpires union will.
I keep hearing the players do object. I hear the players in the minor leagues at AAA ball who've experimented with this kind of object.
Why?
That's what I maintain because, as Manfred said, we're within 1/100th of an inch of perfection in terms of calling stuff in the black at the edge of the plate. Interesting robo-ump experiment in the spring training challenge system for 2025. If this thing works, might have robo-umps by 2026. Next topic, uniforms. Boys are blowback about whatever they were wearing. And those, I'm sorry, John, I know you like difference, but those suckers, they look like softball uniforms. I thought the All-Star game uniforms were awful. And there is a push led by Bryce Harper. Let me wear my colors, my home uniforms. Let those guys wear their road jerseys, the whites and the grays with our logos.
Yeah.
Quit trying to sell additional softball jerseys to the fans. I think there's going to be such pressure to push back on the uniforms. You and I, it's the only thing we've agreed on since we started this bloody podcast.
Yeah. Well, I love wearing your regular homes or away uniform is great. They look like old school barnstorming, uniforms. The blue ones in the National League were acceptable, but the American League ones look terrible. That red wasn't even like a real red.
I'm colorblind. I thought it was orange.
Yeah, it was something.
I'm sorry. It looked like a beer league softball uni. Out with those uniforms. Draft picks. The draft has been in place since, I think, 1965. I think Rick Monday was the first guy that was ever drafted by the Oakland Athletics. They banned teams from trading draft picks. This is about to change. Rob Manfred said in the State of the League address, we should allow teams to use all their resources to build a roster they want. I think this is going to get traction. I think they're going to allow teams to trade their draft picks going forward. It's going to be fascinating to see if that happens.
all the other sports do it, right? I mean, so I think I was always surprised that Major League Baseball held out on that for so long. Because remember the Will Myers trade for Trey Turner?
Yes.
They had to wait until he was, I think, 6 months or 12 months after he was drafted to be included in the deal. It just seemed weird.
The Olympics. You're going to have to tell me, I mean, because you're great with your cell phone looking at calendar dates and this calendar, that. Baseball is going to meet with the union, and they're going to talk extensively about the Olympics. They are going to talk about shutting down baseball in the middle of the 2028 season for the LA Olympics to allow, I think it's fascinating. It'd be a better version of the WBC because it'd be a mid-season when everybody's healthy. It could still be a super all-star game. Each pitcher might be limited to 1 or 2 innings. But they're talking about my guys, your guys, going to the Olympics in 2028. How long are they going to be off? Is it a week? Is it going to be 10 days? They're going to shut the rest of the league down? Interesting observation.
I like it. I like the idea. I just don't know what the WBC is going to do if the Olympics are once every 4 years. It kind of takes the wind out of the sail of the World Baseball Classic.
Networks. Commissioner praises the Padres. Rob Manfred talks about the fact that the Padres lead Major League Baseball. Do you know they're in first place? The Padres lead Major League Baseball 40,000 plus subscribers to the streaming service that baseball created when Bally Sports and the Diamond Sports Group fell apart. Now, of course, they're only handling 3 teams this year. By next year, they hope to have 12. Manfred says they'd like to get as many as 20. They can't get all 30 because the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox and the Dodgers are refusing to give up their regional sports network packages. But if they could get 20, it'd be a rubber stamp thing. And it was interesting because while I was on vacation, I got to watch other teams that are under the MLB banner. I actually got to watch a Diamondbacks broadcast, and it looks exactly like the Padre broadcast with the same music coming in and out of the breaks and how they structure the play-by-play guys, the color guys, and when they go the person along the first baseline, a.k.a. Bob Scanlon. So they're going to grow the networks. Athletics. There is blowback. Do you know last week the average temperature in Sacramento, where the A's are going to play next season, at 7 p.m. for a whole week plus was 102. Oppressive.
Yes.
And of course, minor league ballpark, they're starting the renovations. Now there's blowback. Tony Clark says, I'm not sure we're signing off on this. My guys having to play in the putrid heat day after day after day for a whole season in Sacramento. Now, that being said, back in the day, the Astros used to play before the Astrodome was built in the heat, the humidity with the mosquitoes in Houston. And Texas Rangers played forever outdoors. Globe Life Stadium wasn't there back in the day. So it's going to be interesting to see that there's a lot of blowback about this Oakland A's situation. Manfred, vote of confidence, indicated that he believes John Fisher is going to come up with a $1.1 billion private financing he needs for his share to build the stadium. And the Athletics are holding a press conference next week to unveil the whole structure on this tract of land, I guess where the Tropicana Hotel used to be, and the whole business entity aside from just the ballpark. Press conference, I think it might be as early as next Monday. So you sitting first base line, Sacramento, you crazy?
Oh, that's going to be just, you say oppressive. I've been up there in the summer. It's nuts. I mean, it's like the Oakland Orphans now. I mean, where are they going to land? If Tony Clark said, we're not going to Sacramento, no ifs, ands, or buts, then what do they do? What are their options?
Well, there's always ways. There's always ways to negotiate because Clark has the right to veto his share of this. But, I mean, there's absurd stuff. The Sacramento AAA team, during last week's brutal heat up there, I think it was 9 or 10 days in a row, it was 102 or worse at game time. They moved some games to 10 a.m. Now, I don't think baseball wants to be playing major league games at 10 a.m. because that impacts TV contracts and all this other stuff. So was this thing well thought out? Well, you and I talked in the past, John, that they looked at Vegas, which is bloody hot. They looked at Reno in Vegas to kind of help promote Nevada's baseball team. Giants said, you're not coming here. So I'm not sure really where else they could go if this thing at such a late date gets hammered down because of the Players Association. So stay tuned for that. Now, there's a lot of topics on the table there, and I will ask baseball fan, Padre fan, to comment on the Padres. Which guy would you like to see them go get? I'm still a big Quantrill guy. I think the most fascinating one might be Corbin because I don't think the price would be very high. I don't know about Eovaldi if he's available, but I don't think you can get him for cheap. So if you're a Padre fan, jump on board. And you're a baseball fan, your reaction to robo-umps in the spring training experiment, your reaction to the uniforms, and your reaction to the draft picks. We call this Fans Forum. So you're just joining us. John, how do people join us right at the end of this podcast for Fans Forum?
Yeah, so if you got a question or comment for Lee, just type your question or comment in the live chat on Facebook or YouTube. We're working through some issues on Twitter right now. So Facebook, YouTube, we'll see it here on the screen. We'll get you involved.
And a reminder, X marks the spot. Everybody I know, with the exception of my dog, has a Twitter account, aka X. We're looking for you to join my team, my all-star team. I want you to follow me on X, aka Twitter. Just hit @Hacksaw1090, @Hacksaw1090, and follow. We're trying to push the boulder up the hill. We're trying to get to 10,000 followers. We're bloody close. Would you help us? X marks the spot. Next topic on the table, John.
Okay, more Major League Baseball. What's going on with these teams?
Yeah, let's just run around the roadmap here. Baseball draft is complete. Padres, I like what they did, and they say they're going to sign them all. They drafted 20. Included were 8 pitchers, 4 shortstops. They must lead the world in shortstops in the organization. 2 more catchers, a couple outfielders, first baseman, etc. They say they're going to sign them all. A couple of them are college kids. But I'll tell you, at the top of the board, this left-handed pitcher they got out of the high school ranks from Elk City, Oklahoma, Cash Mayfield, looks very dominant, very impressive. I watched video of him right after the draft. He looks like Cole Hamels in terms of his delivery and obviously his velocity. The second pick is a kid from Camarillo here in Southern California. His name is, let me check here, Boston. I wrote it down. I'm sorry, Boston Bateman, 6'8" left-hander.
6'8".
97 miles an hour high school kid, gave up 4 runs the entire season.
Oh, wow.
He's college bound. He says, I'm going to sign with the Padres instead. They got a shortstop from the University of North Carolina who I think is going to decommit. I think he's going to come. So I think the Padres really did a good job drafting. Now, doesn't mean a hill of beans, John, only because these guys are in the rookie league. These guys might be 3 or 4 years away, but the 2 pitchers they got from the people I conversed with, I thought were very, very impressive. So that's item 1. Item 2, Dodgers. We've talked about the extensive problem with the pitching staff. Post All-Star game, there are still 16 Dodger pitchers on the DL, and a couple have had setbacks now. They're calling up a hot young right-hander. His name is River Ryan. AAA, Oklahoma City, Coast League, where everybody gets hammered.
Yeah, they do.
Kid's got a 2.63 ERA in Oak City.
Really?
So River Ryan, I think he's going to start on the weekend as the Dodgers start the post All-Star game schedule.
Wow.
How about this stat? When River Ryan takes the ball on the mound, it might be Saturday or Sunday, he will be the 32nd pitcher to toe the slab for the Dodgers this season. 32 pitches because of all the injuries.
Wow.
That's just absolutely amazing.
Most teams carry, about 13? So
the max roster limit is 13.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, that's a ton.
32. This would be 32nd pitcher. And of course, the Dodgers are probably going to make a trade. And the burning question, will the Dodgers pull the trigger on a trade to get an arm before the Padres pull the trigger to make a trade to get an arm? So keep that in mind. That's an absolutely stunning story. 32 arms on the Dodgers staff. By the way, speaking of trades, hot rumor on Thursday morning, Dodgers have called the area code 714 Angels. Dodgers have called the Halos about relief ace Carlos Estevez. Now, we all thought Dodgers would make a deal to go get some type of frontline starting pitcher, and they may still. But they're talking to the Angels about Carlos Estevez. And they're also talking to the Angels about bringing back journeyman left-hander Tyler Anderson who's been competitive with the Halos, but doesn't a good team around him. I think he's got a 500 record right now. So maybe one deal, or maybe a bigger deal, Dodgers Halos. Wonder how that go down for the fans in Orange County who already don't like Artie Moreno. Keep an eye on that one.
Well, it's weird to see like the Cubs and White Sox don't trade all that often, or the Giants and A's. I mean, it's not trading with the enemy per se, but it's with in your local community.
Yeah. I mean, Dodgers hardly ever trade with the Giants last I checked. It just doesn't happen. White Sox and Cubs does not. Mets, Yankees, maybe twice since 1962.
I remember the Giants traded for Jackie Robinson, and then he retired.
Yeah, that was back in the day, Okay, so that's the latest there with the Dodgers. Yankee logo. Why do people hate the Yankees? Could baseball fan join us on Fans Forum? Is it the aura of Steinbrenner offended so many people that they've never forgiven the Yankees for what they became? Or is it just the belligerence of the Yankee front office and a New York Yankee fan sitting behind the dugout, giving obscene gestures to the guys coming home? Now, maybe there is a reason why people dislike the Yankees. Juan Soto opens his mouth. Juan Soto at the All-Star break was asked about impending free agency. And every time he talks, it's really Scott Boras talking. I don't think Juan Soto has an original, honest thought in his mind. But here's Juan Soto at the All-Star festivities. Padre fans, listen up. Saying how uncomfortable it is on him and his life and his family to having to keep putting on different uniforms every season.
Oh, please.
What? This is the guy that turned down $440 million with the Washington Nationals and forced the trade. He wound up in San Diego. And this is the guy, after talking to the late owner, Peter Seidler, backed away because of the agent telling him back away. And then he forced this trade to go to the Yankees. And then this is the guy that said, oh, I like it here. Let's negotiate now. And a week later, I'm sure Scott Boras texted him, emailed him, and said, back away from that statement. We're going to free agent. Maybe that's why people hate the Yankees. But Soto, I don't want to hear from Soto anymore. And I understand now why everybody's booing him just because the way he acts.
I'm a victim.
Yeah, victim. I want $500 million, but I am a victim. I couldn't believe that nobody in the media jumped all over his ass. I'm so uncomfortable having to move town to town, wear everybody's uniform, different uniform every year. You're the one that caused all this bleeping trouble. No?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
So we got that situation with the Yankees. New York Mets. I don't know if this is double speak, but we'll just talk about the Mets situation too. Peter Alonso, represented by
Scott Boras.
Now he says, after indicating he wanted to negotiate an extension in season, and he was willing to go on the open market. Now he says, I'd like to stay with the New York Mets, because he didn't say at my price tag. But again, Peter Alonso's hitting 224. Yeah, can he crash 40 home runs? Yeah, but he's hitting 224. His batting average numbers and the other statistics are kind of up and down. And then the White Sox. Man, they're playing, what was the old Bill Cullen television show? The Price is Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day when you used to cut school.
That's before Bob Barker, right?
That was black and white TV, pal.
Okay.
White Sox are shopping this left-hander, and this guy's really great, Garrett Crochet. I don't understand what the hell that they're doing at Comiskey Park, but he's the ace of the staff. They've already traded the veteran ace, Dylan Cease. They're asking 4 for 1 from anybody that wants to deal to get Garrett Crochet, the left-hander, who leads the American League in strikeouts. 4 for 1. Dodgers talked. Atlanta talked. Yankees have talked. Padres were aggressive, but I was told, when the Chi Sox said, we want Ethan Salas, we want Leo DeVries, we want this pitcher, we want that guy, Padres had to back away. They're just not going to overpay, even though you're getting Crochet and you got 2 years guaranteed because he can't become a free agent till after 26. So I'll be intrigued to see where they wind up selling him off to, but the asking price is real steep. So, John, I threw a lot here on the wall. Go ahead and respond. Why do you hate the Yankees?
The Yankees are like, it's like the Death Star, right? The whole Darth Vader thing. Juan Soto is a punk sometimes, and this is an example of it here. And he plays crappy defense. Woe is me. I got to change my uniform. The dude is living in the limelight in New York City, playing with Aaron Judge. And my wife and I were watching the All-Star game, and they had microphones on Soto and Judge, and they were talking in the outfield. We're saying those will look like the two guys that you knew in high school that were like punks that would go around giving everyone a hard time.
But Judge is a good guy. I think he's a
he
good
is.
young man.
Yeah, he is.
Soto is strictly the mouthpiece of Scott Boras, and it's all about me, myself, and I, and give me the $500 million.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as far as the other deals, the White Sox should be holding out for a big deal. I don't blame them for that. We get close to the end of the month, maybe they'll lighten up on their ask.
And they did get a lot of quality for Dylan Cease. But at the end of the day, those poor fans on the south side of Chicago are looking at this garbage that is White Sox baseball for the next couple of years. So Fans Forum is open. You're a baseball fan. Why do fans hate the Yankees? Rightfully so, or not? Jump on board. Want to hear from you. So we go from baseball to what's happening this week, John.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is back in the news. Here we go, Lee.
Hey, football is back, thank God, in some cities. Let's just go through the notebook here. We got a quarterback revolt. We got a wide receiver revolt. We got the opening of training camps. Let's start in San Francisco. They got a real problem. And if I'm a general manager like John Lynch, I think I might have heartburn right now because he's got problems everywhere. He's got salary cap problems because he's already given $19 million a year to the great running back Christian McCaffrey. They got huge money invested in a tight end, George Kittle, cornerstone player. They've had to let a couple of their top defensive linemen go the last 2 seasons just because of cap figures. They got a ton of money committed to Deebo Samuel, who's a multi-position guy but gets dinged. They obviously have to sign Brock Purdy. And now, depending what day of the week it is and which way the wind is blowing, now he's got more problems with Brandon Ayuk. And Ayuk's a great player. 75 catches last season, something like 18 yards per catch, ton of touchdowns. His future very much ahead of him. He's making $14.5 million right now. He wants an upgrade to 25 on a multi-year extension. And Frisco's of the opinion, we can't do this with the cap because I got to take care of that quarterback who's in the final year of his short-term contract. So there's a big issue there. Ayuk, who met face-to-face with John Lynch a week ago, emerged from the meeting. Everything's fine. I understand economics 101. They explained it to me. A week after that, just a couple of days ago, I'm unhappy. I want out. You know, who are you going to trade? Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk? I like Ayuk. I think he's got much more value, much more upside, younger player. Granted, Deebo is a diverse guy. So that's a big issue in San Francisco. In Dallas, he's not coming to camp, and this will be a problem if he sits out, but he's going to get fined $50,000 a day if he sits out. CD Lamb is not coming to camp.
$50,000 a day?
Yes, according to the collective bargaining agreement. If you're under contract, pal, and you don't show up to do this podcast, $50,000 a day.
Holy smokes.
So here's the big issue. He wants everybody, every receiver I know is threatening to hold out if they're on the final year of their contract, headed to free agency. They all want 30 to 35 mil. They need CD Lamb. And Dallas has got a lot more problems than that because Dallas has got to deal with Dak Prescott, expiring contract, and they have to deal with Micah Parsons, star linebacker, expiring contract. So Dallas has got problems, and CD Lamb is going to get fined if he doesn't show up the end of this week. And then there is Miami, and that is Tyreek Hill. Or is it Tua? Tyreek, who set the high water mark for salary at 25 mil, is now underpaid because half the world's getting 30 to 35 mil, led by Justin Jefferson up in Minnesota. Tyreek, he wants his contract ripped up. He's got 2 years left. He says, I want state-of-the-art money, 35 mil. And Miami's got to re-sign Tua. This is the last year of his contract. I was told they offered Tua 40 mil a year. But because everybody's getting $50 million at the position, he wants $50 million. I don't know if he's a $50 million quarterback. He had an unbelievable season last year. We've seen some growth. We've seen some injuries. So Miami's got problems. With the quarterback who'd be thrown to the wide receiver, they got problems with both of them. Cleveland, same story. Star wide receiver, Amari Cooper. I want my bucks. He had a good season last year, but his career has been hot and cold. A lot of injuries. He's moved around. He wants 30 mil. And the guy that throws him the ball in Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, his cap figure, get this. Remember, they gave him $230 million totally guaranteed when they got him from Houston, Texas. His cap figure as of lunchtime today, $63.7 million. He counts more than 42% against the salary cap. One player, one position, 42% of the bloody payroll. By the way, the cap number is 255 this season. So Cleveland's got the money they gave Deshaun, and now everybody else wants their cut of the pie with Amari Cooper. And then there's the Raiders story. I don't know what's fact or fiction. Reports are Davante Adams starts talking about his relationship in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, dropping hints, insinuation, gee, I'd like to be with the New York Jets and relink with Aaron Rodgers, vacate the Raiders. Now, the Raiders deny there's any trade conversations. They won't answer questions. Did the Jets call you? Did you meet with Davante Adams to talk about whether he's happy or sad, glad or mad? You know, the Raiders are in flux. You know, the quarterback situation, they lost their top running back. Davante has never quite been the same as he was in Green Bay when he was linked with Aaron Rodgers. So that's a storyline bears watching, because I'm not a conspiracy dude. But, pal, in the corner of the studio, if I see smoke, that leads me to believe there's probably some fire somewhere.
Right.
And if I see smoke in the Raider camp with this ongoing Davante Adams thing, there might be a fire there too. So, John, football camps are open. You think we're going to talk some NFL this week, every week going forward? Go ahead, pick a topic here. Solve the money issues with the wide receivers. Solve Dallas. Go ahead, solve Miami. What are you doing with the Raiders?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is like a game of musical chairs to get everyone to fit, because you were talking about the Niners, and I was thinking about Brock Purdy and how are they going to take care of him, because he's going to need big money. But just to look at all these other deals, Deshaun Watson, what a disgrace. I mean, the way he's played and making money, but show me the math again on that, Lee, because you said he's going to be making 63.
That's his cap figure, which includes salary and past bonuses that were prorated. His total cap figure is 63.7.
But how is that 40%?
Of 255.
So 40% of 255 is like about 100, right?
Good question. I don't know. I've read what I read, and the number is high.
Okay. Well, it is a lot.
63 point. It's the highest cap figure of anybody. I think Dak Prescott is the second highest at 55.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for him, Deshaun Watson, I mean, I paid Tua, that money before I paid Deshaun Watson.
Well, Watson was great in Houston, then he got suspended, and they traded for him. They gave away all these picks. They guaranteed the entire contract. He got there. He had to sit out the last part of the suspension. Then he played and didn't play well. Then he played the next year. He got hurt, devastating shoulder injury. And we'll find out in a week or so how much he can practice, how much he can throw. But they gave him an enormous amount of guaranteed money. 63 million cap figure. Nobody's ever seen that.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. But so much money in the NFL. I don't blame the players for asking for more, demanding more. It's a competitive marketplace. But yeah, John Lynch will show you the numbers and say we only got this much breathing room.
Economics 101. And what do you think about Tyreek Hill versus Tua? Who are you giving the cash to?
Well, you got to find a way to give it to both of them. I mean, they're both deserving of it. The problem is then you run out of money for linebackers and everybody else.
Exactly. So that's the latest around the National Football League. You're a pro football fan. Want you to jump on board our Fans Forum segment right at the end of this podcast. We get to halftime. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects in the home. I don't care whether it's renovating the kitchen, going to do something in the bathroom, you want to do something in the man cave. This guy did it in his house. Go to DIXIELINE Lumber. They've got the materials, and if you need ideas beyond color schemes, but if you need ideas, they'll provide you some consultants. These people are great people to do business with at DIXIELINE Lumber. And our podcast is also brought to you by North County Eye Centers of Poway and Escondido. Does not matter where you live in San Diego County. These are the people to do business with. Why? Because there are 11 different professional doctors there that can help you with eye problems, and we're all going to have problems, whether it's cataracts, whether it's glaucoma, whether it's styes in the eyes, whether it's pink eye, if you need help with your eyes. And right now, through the end of July, DIXIELINE is offering free eye exams and discounts on your eye frames. Call, make sure you tell them Hacksaw sent me, North County Eye Center. And we go to the second half of our podcast. Couple of program reminders. When we're done, you're taking over this show. No excuse for you not to be in the chat room with us. It's called Fans Forum. John, just describe the monster you created.
The monster. Look at these guys piled in. Angel, we got Chris, we've got Joey, we've got Tim, SK and Gary and Richard. And if you got anybody else wants to jump on board, just type in your question or comment in the live chat on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum today.
And if you like sports, you should check my website every morning when you get up, because it's written. It's all written. You won't believe the volume of information. You give me 5 minutes at breakfast, I'll tell you every story there is in the world of sports. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I'd love to hear from somebody on Fans Forum. If you check my website, want you to see what we write every day. It's always there first thing in the morning. And a reminder, when you go to my website, right there on the front page, there's a big orange box. Join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You get on our email list for all the special things that we're offering Hacksaw's Insiders Group. John, we go to the second half of our Thursday podcast, heading towards this great sports weekend. Pick a topic off the table.
Okay, we're going to talk NBA. You know, a name that we remember from the past has passed away.
Yeah, this is strange. We're talking about the loss of Joe Jellybean Bryant, the father of the Lakers legend, Kobe Bryant. Jellybean passed away at the age of 69, complications from a severe stroke. It was an interesting career. He played collegiately at a small place called LaSalle University, Philadelphia, big star. Got drafted first round. The Warriors drafted him, but then dealt him to the Philadelphia 76ers. Played a bunch of years with the 76ers, moved around. He played here. He played for the San Diego Clippers, the brief stay they had at the sports arena. Joe Jellybean Bryant passes away. It was a strange relationship, very strained relationship. He and his son Kobe. He and his wife were against Kobe getting married at that point to Vanessa. For some reason, there was insinuation that she was going after his gold. Well, it didn't work that way because they had a great family till Kobe passed away tragically in the helicopter accident. But it was a very, very strained relationship between the father and the son and the mother at the same time. I think they patched it up at the end of his career. And of course, his life was extinguished and along with the granddaughter who died. But Joe Jellybean Bryant, jumping jack of a guy, I think he averaged 8 points, maybe 7 rebounds over the course of his career as a role player. So he passes away. Milwaukee. Last time we saw him, he was screaming at people, throwing a ball into the stands after Milwaukee got evicted from the playoffs by the Indiana Pacers. Talking about your guy, Pat Beverly.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you think his shtick is going to go down in Tel Aviv, Israel? Nobody signed him in the NBA. I guess you can understand why.
Yeah.
There was always an issue with Patrick Beverly. He was high-strung. He was emotional. He was flamboyant. He was a hard ass. It's probably a load in the locker room behind closed doors to deal with. He signed an international contract to play in Tel Aviv. Holy cow. So I'm a little bit surprised with that, but he's going abroad. I always liked him because he just changed the complexion of a game when he came off the bench. You knew there was going to be bleep going on the court when he was there. Was it him and the guy he was guarding, or him and the ref? And of course, at the end of the playoffs, it was him and the fans. So Pat Beverly has gone abroad. Golden State, they're rebuilding. They're not done dealing. Keep an eye on this. Golden State is talking extensively to the Utah Jazz about a trade for 7-1 shooting forward Lauri Markkanen. Markkanen's a really good basketball player. A lot of offense, not a rim protector, but he's a 7-1 forward who's got great skill. Evidently, Golden State is talking about shopping Moses Moody, very good young guard, as well as multiple number 1 picks. Utah does not think it can re-sign him. Markkanen wants to go play for a quality basketball team. There had been insinuations that Golden State was going to have to throw Jonathan Kuminga, their young bright star, into the package. Warriors said no, but this conversation is still going on. And the last name is Adam Silver. You know, the NBA has just agreed to a $76 billion TV contract extension with a new partner, Amazon, in addition to ESPN, in addition to NBC. Well, TNT, Charles Barkley's network, has the right to match whatever deal the NBA reached with one of those partners and take that away. The report as of this morning is that the NBA has been informed that TNT or TBS is going to match the Amazon thing and pull it off. So Charles Barkley have a place to go work next year. You won't have him as a co-host after you bounce me out of here. So that's interesting. But the owner of the New York Knicks is at war with Adam Silver. He is furious that Adam Silver has developed the NFL mentality of revenue sharing, where all the TV revenue is going. It's going to be split evenly between everybody like the National Football League does. Adam Silver's of the opinion competitive balance is the best thing for our league. You know, I've said all along, I know you like the 3-star concept. You like 5 super teams and 25 that nobody pays attention to, you know, as long as it's New York and LA and Boston. Well, Adam Silver says we've had 6 different champions in 6 years. That's really good for the NBA. James Dolan, the Knicks owner, says that's not right. You're penalizing those of us who either have good products or big city and big TV contracts. You're making us put all of our big money into a pot and share it with Sacramento and the other ones, San Antonio, that don't make a lot of revenue. He says that's not fair. He's got to get a real unhappy owner in New York, despite all the wealth that they just got with a $76 billion TV contract. So, John, you got topics on the table. Do not shoot air balls here. I need you to hit a 3-pointer.
Well, I used to object to, the revenue share deal because I'm a capitalist and I wanted to see these owners be able to make money. But you know what? It's different in sports because you want to have competitive balance in a league. You don't necessarily want to have competitive balance when you're going out buying eggs or a loaf of bread. So it makes sense that they should try to have a way to manage that because the NFL has proven that that's the model that works.
Exactly. And the NFL's got some unhappy people too that, why should I be pouring all my big ticket money and my local TV revenue into a pot to allow the lowly Indianapolis Colts or small market Pittsburgh to share evenly?
Well, the value of that franchise, whoever the complainer is going through the roof.
Exactly. So that's the latest there. All things NBA. And you have no opinion about Patrick Beverly. He's done everything but spit on people.
Yeah, we've talked about him. He's like a pest on the court. But it's interesting is usually when guys are playing overseas, I think of a lot of the Aztecs that, didn't make the NBA and they're playing overseas. It's rare to see a player that has been in the NBA for as long as Beverly is and then go overseas. So is he doing it for the money or is he doing it because he just wants to play? I'm interested in his motivations.
How do you think his shtick is going to play abroad?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work too much. I mean, especially in that part of the world, people get pretty angry.
Hey, if you're with us, you like the NBA, join us on Fans Forum right at the end because you're going to take over this show. Last topic on the table. I told you so. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, you told us. Yeah, the headlines here. Did you watch the British Open this morning?
Yeah, I woke up at 2 a.m. because my back was bothering me and I wanted to go downstairs and I got vetoed on that thing. But I did watch it later in the morning, and I've followed it throughout the course of the day. He's talking, of course, about the British Open. Let's start with topic 1, Tiger Woods. As Tiger got ready to tee off his practice rounds this week at Troon in Scotland on the West Coast, He was confronted by comments that Colin Montgomery made. Colin Montgomery, of course, is a great golfer, England. He was asked about Tiger playing in Grand Slam events only. And Monty said, why the hell is he doing this? He can't play anymore. Tiger was passionate. Tiger was ultra competitive. Says Tiger hasn't broken par in a Grand Slam event since 2021. Why is he doing this? Tiger responded. He didn't blow his lid, but he blew his lid. He said, I've won Grand Slam events, 15 majors. Has Colin Montgomery won one major? No. So he kind of talked him down. Tiger goes out today, and it's horrible. The weather was bad. We all knew that, but everybody had to play the same. He was terrible. He had 7 bogeys and 2 doubles. He just completely fell apart on the course. 7 over par. You're not going to make the cut. I'm sorry. I said this prior. People got offended. I just hate to view this as being a pity party. And that's what it's become. So Tiger's playing and people follow him, but he can't play anymore. I hate to see him limping on the course. I hate to see him dragging his leg, walking up the hills. It's just not the same. So Tiger's gone. Meanwhile, first round at Troon. I'm going to tell you about the golf course, first of all. I wrote some notes here. I want to make sure I get these quotes correctly because I thought long and hard about this over a beer. What is Troon on the west coast of Scotland all about? 6-foot deep pot bunkers. If you played the game.
Oh, yeah. I saw them on TV. They're like hellacious.
Yeah. You'd be down there trying to get your ball out of the
it's
big
like
hole.
vertical.
Exactly. So you got pot bunkers. The posted stamp hole, 123 yards, 6th hole. Good luck getting that sucker on the green without taking a penalty. It's like trying to drop a shot onto this table. Postage stamp hole. The railway hole. Don't you hit your ball off the fairway over the rail lines that run parallel along Troon, because you have a tough time getting it out of the rough or getting it while it's down in between the tracks. I've never seen that before. And then there's the thing called the mile hole, 623 yards. Good luck with that.
Wow.
Making distance. And by the way, there's the weather. And today in the first round at Troon, golfers who teed off early were playing into an 18-mile-an-hour wind that got gustier. But because you're on the Irish Sea, that thing can change. So they made the turn at 9 after fighting their way through all this 18 mile an hour in their face. The wind had changed. They had to fight their way back on the back 9 with the wind in their face. And then it started to rain. And then the wind was going sideways. It was just awful. And if it's not just the weather and just not the course, you got what they call the gross gorse, which is the high weeds, the brown burned out weeds in the rough. You got the sand dunes and you got the swales on the green. You got the rough, which is really hard to go find your ball, much less hit it out of. And you got the British brush, twigs, different flowers, all types of debris if you can't keep the sucker on the fairway. And then you got the weather in the Irish Sea. You can get all 4 seasons in one day at the British Open when it's on the coast of Scotland or it's blowing on the Irish Sea. So going into this thing, I talked extensively about Scotty Scheffler. He right now is dominating the PGA Tour. Talked about Bryson DeChambeau, who's been red hot, LIV, and obviously won the U.S. Open. Talked about Rory coming home, all the experience playing on the links courses and all that. Bad day today. Rory couldn't get it on the postage stamp hole. Took huge penalties. He hit the green one and it bounced off. Penalty shots. Then he hit one over the railroad tracks on the railway hole. He self-destructed. Rory was 7 over par, sandwiched right next to Tiger at the end of the leaderboard. Does not look like Rory's going to make it. And DeChambeau, for all the flamboyance, he started like you and I would, well, maybe you would start. 4 bogeys, first 6 holes, never recovered. Scotty Scheffler was amongst the later groups that started. He was at 1 under par, I think probably on 11 as we started our podcast. So this thing is a freaking nightmare. And if you like seeing golfers struggle and how they react and how they have to recompose themselves. Don't watch Ty Hatton throw his club down on the green and almost break it because he was so angry about the wind blowing his putts. It's an obstacle course, but it's fun to watch. And tomorrow might be a beautiful sunny day. But then again, tomorrow might be like winter too because it's bloody Scotland. So that was quite a story. You want to comment on Tiger? You want to comment on the Open?
Well, just real quick, I saw Tiger birdie a hole, and then when he walked to the hole to pull the ball out, he looked like an old man, like bending over with his back, and you could tell he's just not the same guy. Yep. So yeah, is it a pity party? But watching that, I was watching about an hour of it this morning, and the fans are like in jackets and beanies, and the golfers are even wearing multiple layers out there on the course. I mean, it looks brutal.
It is. It's an obstacle course. You're not only playing a 158-man group that teed off, you're not only playing the obstacles that I just alluded to, who the course is, how it's laid out, and what you have to compete with. You're playing the weatherman. And I think atop the leaderboard today, it says weatherman 1, golfers nothing. Just terrible. You're a golf fan. Feel free to jump on board. Let's go to the second topic on the table there, English soccer. A day after King Charles wrote a thank you note to the stars, Harry Kane, etc., on the English world team that was in the Euro Championship finals. And he wrote a similar letter to their coach, Gareth Southgate. Southgate retired. He walked away from it. It says he did not want to do this anymore. He said, I've accomplished a lot. I've learned a lot. He should be accorded honors for rebuilding English soccer, which has not done anything globally, I don't think, since 1965. But that's a bit of a surprise. Gareth Southgate has retired as coach. Got Team USA. There's some obstacles now. It does not appear, since they fired Greg Berhalter, it does not appear that Jurgen Klopp, the English coach at Liverpool, the former coach at Dortmund in Germany, wants to interview with Team USA, just does not want to coach next season. He wants to take the entire year off. And the second big name that was on the group, Jesse Marsh, who's the coach of Team Canada and was a finalist before Berhalter was brought back a second time. He said, I'm staying in Canada. I'm not going to take this job. However, interesting names have surfaced. Those of you who are English Premier League fans will recognize this name, Tom Tuchel, former head coach at Chelsea, former head coach at Bayern Munich, is evidently expressing interest in Team USA's job. And he's a pretty dynamic guy, knows how to work with young players, which a preponderance of the U.S. roster is made up of. Another name that has just surfaced, Hervé Renaud, coached Zambia, which had upsets in World Cup play. He coached Ivory Coast. He coached Saudi Arabia. He's expressing interest. Steve Cherundolo, who's done a great job with LAFC, the Los Angeles team, and MLS, and Mauricio Pochettino, former head coach, Hotspurs, Chelsea, and Paris Saint-Germain, who's available. He got let go by Paris at the end of the year. So all of a sudden we got 4 different international names that are expressing interest. I still like Jurgen Klopp, but I don't think he wants to coach. So we got that story. And then the last topic on the table, this hasn't gotten a lot of coverage. This is cool. Sports John is all about marketing. NCAA has just announced, we know about the greatness and the excitement and the following that March Madness Final Four brings. They have announced next year, the Final Four in Indianapolis will feature not only the Final Four in men's basketball, they are bringing in the finals of the NIT, which the NCAA also operates. And they're going to put the championship game in Indianapolis on Final Four weekend.
So not Madison Square Garden?
No. It'll be played in Indianapolis probably on the Sunday before the championship game on Monday.
All right.
So that's cool.
Yeah,
and
cool.
They're bringing in the Division II championship game and the Division III championship game, and they're going to play them at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the great old barn that Butler University plays in.
That's the Hoosiers movie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool to bring the D2 and D3 guys. I like
so
that.
Isn't that cool? So you have the NIT, which is kind of fallen off the radar. You're going to put that in the middle of March Madness, and you're going to have the D2 and the D3 guys bring their teams and their fans, whatever that might be, to Indy.
That's awesome.
And play them at Hinkle Fieldhouse. That's kind of cool. So, John, your turn. You can talk about the three Lions in England, Team USA, or hoops.
Oops. I mean, I go back to Team USA. If I'm looking to hire a guy, I'm not going to hire an MLS coach or a Team Canada guy. Get one of those, European coaches in here to, really take it up a level. So it's just weird that they let go of Berhalter so quickly, and yet Jurgen Klopp, which could have been an awesome substitute, now he's not available. I feel like they've kind of screwed themselves.
I'll tell you what's interesting to me. I've read some of the fans forum stuff we've gotten on social media. People just banging on us because we're pro Berhalter, and yet fans out there think he's failed. I'm not quite sure I subscribe to that theory, because his whole methodology was we got to rebuild this program, and Pulisic was item one. And then he moved what few veterans are left off the roster, and he stocked it with a lot of young kids who have to learn on the job. And yet, preponderance of soccer fan that watches our podcast, just, I don't know if they're beating up on me or they're beating up on you, or maybe they're beating up on both of them. I haven't found one guy that sides with what we had to say about Berhalter, that he needed the next 21 months to make this thing grow. You bring somebody abroad, you can bring a good coach, but he's going to bring a whole different culture, probably a whole different program. And then there's a language issue too. I think they should have stayed with Berhalter through the next World Cup. That's just one man's opinion, but I'm a talk show host, so I think I'm right.
Well, I remember the last World Cup, we knew the team was really young.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, okay, by the time we get to 2026, they're going to be in a good spot. But it just felt like a quick trigger on this whole thing. I mean, and then as far as the other comments, I love all the Final Four stuff that you mentioned. And the British Open is just a terrific tournament. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the weekend.
You just like to see misery. You just like those poor guys.
And it's cool the way the course has those holes that are named. It's just like Augusta in that way.
You in a pot bunker. You'd probably be taking a 12 in a pot bunker.
Those are brutal. I mean, I saw those on television. I mean, literally, it's like 10 feet straight up, and it's right next to the green. So you've got to hit like a perfect dink shot to get it on the green.
Just absolutely amazing. British Open. Have never sampled it. Get up at 2:00 in the morning, watch it. You'll like it. Hey, our fans forum is just around the corner. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. And it's also brought to you at the same time by North County Eye Center, offering free eye exams regardless of where you live. The way you get your free eye exam is to call North County Eye Center and tell them, Hacksaw sent me, Hacksaw sent me. John, we got some people that are going to fire some shots. I wish I had worn my asbestos shoes, or I should have brought a shield or the goaltender's gear. But go ahead. We got people with opinions.
Okay, Hacksaw sent me. Okay, let's go here to Chris. Let's end the charade. Caitlin Clark is not only the rookie of the year, she's probably the third best player in the league, and she's halfway through her rookie season. Nothing against Reese, but Clark is doing things no one has ever done. Her skill level is once in a lifetime. Double-doubles based on rebounding, your countless misses do not compare with behind-the-back assists and logo threes. Let's be real. 19 assists last night? Are you kidding me?
Triple-double. I mean, she's been unbelievable. And when you consider where her game was when she first came on board, it's absolutely stunning what she has accomplished. So very impressive. She's gotten better. Indiana at one point was 3-10 and just looked like bad basketball team with one player. Now they've become a very, very good basketball team. And she's so unselfish and she's so mature to handle all the stuff that the media asks her, because they all respond to what somebody else did to her. This is a special basketball player.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, she deserves tremendous amount of credit for all the attention. I was reading in your best 15 this morning that the WNBA's got a big new contract.
$2 billion. They just signed an 11-year extension. They weren't making 50 cents off their TV contract. Now there's sellouts in every arena. And it's not just because of her, because there was a tremendous rush of NCAA college stars that showed up at the WNBA simultaneously. And, give Angel Reese credit. Separate all the junk that comes out of her mouth. Don't pay any attention to what she wears walking down the tunnel, because it's all about her attention. She's a really good basketball player, and there's a whole bunch of them there. So they're selling out, and now they've got a $2.2 billion TV contract, because I think before they were getting 59 cents a year. This is really special.
Angel Reese, I think, is a great player, and I think she's got her own unique persona that's different. Caitlin Clark. It doesn't need to be like the good guy and the villain, because I know Reese likes to say she enjoys playing the villain, but they're just two different players, and they're going to be linked like Bird and Magic, and I think it's terrific.
Yeah. WNBA. Next question.
Okay, here, let's go to Tim. Lee, if the Padres don't make the postseason, Preller needs to go. Further, would it be time to move Manny Machado? He clearly is on the decline and is not a true leader in the clubhouse.
Well, Manny's been dinged. Manny's had a good middle part of the season. It's taken time to come back from the elbow. Then he had the hip issue. You could move him at $30 million, but then you'd have a massive hole in your batting order. The Preller situation, the only word I'll use is what ownership said after the passing of Peter Seidler. We're all accountable. And I read between the lines, and that meant if you don't make the playoffs, we're going to have to review the guy that has built this franchise who didn't make the playoffs. That's A.J. Preller. But let's just see. Preller, it's funny. I watched the All-Star game. How many ex-freaking Padres are in the All-Star game?
There were 10.
He was trading away.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. You go through the box scores, there's ex-Padres everywhere. A bunch of them having good success. There's no doubt that AJ is a wheeler dealer. At this point in time, I'm not going to fire him. But if they don't make the playoffs, this is going to be hard. They're going to have to make a deal to make the playoffs. They don't make the playoffs, then there will be an evaluation of, is his methodology correct?
Well, given all the frustration we have as a Padre fans, isn't it amazing that fans just keep showing up to Petco, paying the money? And I think as long as that happens, I think AJ is putting a competitive product on the field that the fans want to see. It's on the players to perform. And then the other comment here about Manny, to me, I think Manny is a leader. He just has his own way of doing it. It's clear that the other players look up to him. But he just has that bad rap that he's been carrying around for the last decade.
And at times he still appears offbeat.
Mm-hmm.
People, I've had people email me and make comments on my social media that he grounds out, doesn't run hard, and he's blowing a bubble while he's running down first base. You don't see that very often from very many other players, but I think the game comes easy for him. I think he's a really complete ball player. But he is getting to the north side of 30. So what's long-term? I wouldn't trade him, because if you trade him, now you're creating another monster problem for your team in terms of how do you replace all that?
Well, then who would want to trade for him? With that contract, the Padres have to probably kick in money. So I say you stick with him. Let's make him a Padre for life and get him in the Padre Hall of Fame.
How about the accountability question with AJ?
Well, there has to be accountability there. But again, if the fans are showing up, I'm going to have a little bit of slack on that leash for AJ. But when you get guys that just don't perform, you can't really, like when Soto has a down year, you traded for Juan Soto. Preller pulled off a good trade. At the time, we all supported it. He gave up a ton, but we liked it. And then Soto didn't perform, and now AJ's the bad guy. I give him a little bit of slack there. But to your other point about all the All-Stars, there were 10 of them. And some of them we dealt when they were really young, like Clase, who's a closer for the Indians, the Guardians. And
CJ Abrams.
Well, and yeah, I mean, he made it. But there's other guys that made it that were Padres, like Kirby Yates, that we figured he was done. When he left the Padres, he had arm trouble. He had been bouncing around. The fact that he made it, that's a good story.
Yeah, it is. Okay, next question. Fans Forum.
Next question, Fans Forum. Let's go to SK. The most knowledgeable person in sports journalism. Lee has forgotten more than anyone will probably ever know, a live version of a sports encyclopedia.
Well, thank you. I enjoy compiling information. I have lots of diverse interests. I think I don't know if John agrees with me. I think one of the reasons why what I did initially at 690, what I followed up doing at 1090, it was successful because I appealed. John's heard me make this statement. I appealed to everybody who was on the waterfront. Sports talk radio today, all they want to talk about is the Padres. Well, you can't live off that 5 days a week. I was doing 4-hour shows a night, but what I did was, I hit the hot button stories with the Padres and the Chargers while they were here, and then the Aztecs. And then I hit the hot button stories on other big stories around the NFL, what's going on in college football, Major League Baseball. And then obviously I reached out and we did NBA related stuff. And I came from a hockey background. And then I expanded and I did Formula One and NASCAR and Indy. And I loved it. I grew up, I learned about the World Cup in soccer and the PGA Tour and all that. So I kind of hit everybody's hot button along the way. You don't have to agree with anything I say, but I'm giving you data and I'm asking you to get off your ass and get on the phone. Well, same thing here on the podcast. I want you to join me in Fans Forum. So my unique interests, I think, generated a big following because I hit everybody's hot button. Not everybody's a Padre fan. Not everybody's a baseball fan. And if I can service the hockey fan and the Formula One fan, and only one I didn't cover, I don't cover World Wrestling Federation. That's bad theater. I don't do bad theater.
Hulk Hogan's going to be at the Republican convention.
Yeah, that's let's just see how many other people we can put on to talk about the former president.
Yeah.
But so thank you for the compliment. Yes, I am bleeping brilliant because I'm really interested in all this stuff. You read my website, look at the diverse amount of data. Even this guy who left me for 2 weeks to go on a freaking vacation to Ireland, and he could not get any information. He did pay me a compliment. He went to my website every day to get Hacksaw's headlines because he couldn't get it while I was over there drinking Guinness Ale at the top of the brewery in Dublin, Ireland. So what we offer is unique and different, and I think pretty damn good.
Again, I was blown away when I first encountered you on the radio. Like, holy crap, who is this guy? Because you not only had all the data, but you had the hot takes, you had the shtick, and it was just so entertaining and it was so mind-blowing when I first tuned in the late 80s, early 90s. But I got to say, just doing this podcast with you, it's not like you just stay at home and watch TV and then just roll in with your information. I mean, you're a hardworking guy. You're doing your research, you're writing your articles, you're going to press conferences. You're the hardest working man in sports journalism. And it's incredible that you're still going strong.
I may wake up one morning and I'll say, John, it's your turn to do it all because I've decided not to do it any further. But I like it. I just, everywhere I go, I get stopped everywhere to talk sports. You know, John knows that I've had back problems. I go to a fitness center every morning, 6:30, 7 a.m. If they were open at 2 a.m., I would have gone this morning. But people stop and talk. They want to talk sports. And it's just, I like hearing what other people have to say. And they ask me, what do you think about this or versus that? And I tell them what I think, or I correct them in terms of their assumptions. And it's cool. And that's who I am. Sorry, that's my DNA.
Well, you go around saying, I want to talk sports with you.
No, people yell at me that.
Yeah. And so they want to talk sports with you. And I think that's great. And you love the attention when you're out there. I mean, you're a celebrity here in San Diego, and I think it's great that the fans love you.
Does that include the guy that came up to me at a Mexican restaurant while I was having dinner with my wife and said, you dumbass, why would you say that stuff about the Raiders? Okay, let's move on. Fans Forum continues.
Okay, here, let's go to Gary. Umps called balls and strikes this year have been horrible. Sounded like Bill Walton. I've been saying this for years. The players deserve for it to be right. It should not have to deal with that and fight and argue. Actually might miss that, but I vote for ROBO-UMP.
Well, I'm going to have to be sold. Technology is great till it doesn't work. But I'm going to have to be sold that we're not taking too much away from the game if we take the umpire out of the balls and strikes decision. I like the idea of the instant replay challenge on balls and strikes. I'd like to see him give every manager 3 challenges or maybe 5, although you don't want the game stopped, then stopped, then stopped for a quote review. But boy, to me, that's awful radical. But then again, back in the day when they decided to go the designated hitter initially, I thought, oh, that's not right. The only thing that bothered me was the 2 leagues did not operate by the same set of rules until more recently when they finally adopted the DH in the National League. And they've got to work through the union. Union has to sign off on this, and they have to work through the Umpires Association too, because the umpires are going to lose some of their clout in the course of the game. But I'm sorry, the strike zone, the moving home plate, it just drives me crazy. And whether that's wide strike zones, tight strike zones, then we get into the conversation about how high is the strike zone versus how low is the strike zone. So this is not solvable real easily.
Well, like when I was a kid, it was from the letters to the knees. But you look at that box and it's from the belt to just below the knees. So it's changed. But remember back in the day, the AL umpires called a different type of strike zone than the NL. Do you remember how that broke down?
No, I don't remember the specifics of it. But then they changed the relationship, and all umpires worked all games. Maybe this was about 5 years ago. They did away with the American League and the National League guys. They homogenized it all, and everybody was supposed to call the same strike zone, and now it's all over the road. And I don't know whether the ratio is the umps are worse or whether the ratio is these guys are throwing such wicked stuff that moves so fast, and you got catchers who are moving and trying to frame, and whether the umps are getting a good look at it or whether the umps are victimized because that guy out there is throwing 101 miles an hour with jump.
Yeah, and these are like older gentlemen, and they're wearing a mask with bars in front of their eyeballs.
And a catcher moving in front of them.
Yeah, so get the technology in there right away. The other kind of side comment on this is I remember when Ha-Sung Kim came to America, he said the strike zone was different here than in Korea. Because I think in Korea it was narrower and taller. So it's just the little nuances like this. It shouldn't be subjective. Balls and strikes should be objective.
All right. Gentleman says computers. He's probably got stock in Apple. That's why he's saying that. Go ahead. Next question. Fans Forum.
Fans Forum. Let's go to Angel. During the late 90s, early 2000s, the Yankees collected players like baseball cards, and no one said anything. Dodgers signed one player for 10 years, and everyone cried foul.
Yeah, well, they signed him for more than 10 years, but the payment process goes out for a long period of time, talking about Showtime going to Dodger Stadium. I think my question was, why does everybody hate the Yankees? I think it's probably a spin-off of how great the Yankees were way back in the day in the Mantle Maris era, and how great they became, Steinbrenner, Reggie Jackson, all that era. And now they're in New York, and I guess it's fait accompli that everybody hates the Big Apple, so therefore we'll boo whatever the Yankees are right now. The Yankees right now are really beat up and struggling as a franchise. It's interesting why they hate the Yankees more than they probably hate other teams. Or maybe I got it wrong. Maybe there's hatred everywhere.
Well, people always hate the big dog, and like, there are some people that hate on Amazon. 10 years ago, they hated on Walmart.
A pile of people dislike me, and if we search long enough, we'll find a few who don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. and so, but the Yankees are the top of the heap. They're the media darlings. So yeah, they get a lot of attention. Okay, let's go to the next comment here. This is from Richard. Can we please go back to the All-Star game, having the players wear their own team uniforms? The jerseys are god awful. It's a money grab. It's tradition. Can't always be about the money.
That's what Bryce Harper said. Quit trying to create more uniforms for the fans to have to buy. They like our uniforms, our logos, the color scheme. I think this change is going to occur. I think we're going back. I'm sorry, you just don't look good in the American League All-Star jersey. Why the hell you'd spend any money to buy an American League All-Star jersey? What's wrong with you?
That was like pajamas or something. It was just crazy. But remember when the All-Star game was in San Diego and they made brown and gold practice jerseys, I think, for batting practice. And those are pretty cool. And I have one still, and with Buster Posey's name on the back, but it's in brown and gold. So it's like the perfect jersey for me to wear when I go see my two favorite teams.
I just want to see the Oriole colors versus the Philly colors.
There you go.
Back in the day, the NBA used to have the players wear their home or road jerseys. And I went to an NBA All-Star game, and I sat in press row, and they line them up at center court. And what a cool picture that is, to see the Phoenix Suns orange jersey, to see the Celtics green jersey. Let's just bring it back.
Well, yeah, especially for the casual fan, because you don't really know some of these stars and you don't know what team they're from. So to see the jersey is great. And like as a kid, man, I just love that, because it was like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley mashup, where these players would cross over and play against the other players. It was just so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the color schemes and just the aura of wearing your home versus the road was really, really neat.
It's artwork.
It's the only second time in the world you and I ever agreed on anything. Next topic.
Okay, let's go to Joey. Hey, if the Raiders start out slow, does Devontae go to the Jets? Do they get a first?
Well, he's 30 plus years of age. He's got limited time left on the clock, but who knows how desperate the Jets will be. But maybe the lure will allow the Raiders to move him to the Jets if Devontae wants to go play. Now, he's got a big contract, and the Jets take on that contract. There's so many other complexities. I don't know if I'd trade a number one pick for a guy that's going to be 33, I believe, but he's a fine player. We're going to start talking more and more NFL. We started today. We'll obviously dive into it a little bit more on the Monday bonus program. But there's so many storylines, so many different things to talk about, and just, prime example, Raiders. What is life like after Josh Jacobs, the do everything running back who left? Who's a really trusted quarterback? Is it Gardner Minshew or is it Aiden O'Connell? Have they finally fixed their offensive line? We do know about Mad Max Crosby at defensive end, but do they have enough internally at defensive front to make it a complete defensive line? Do they have anybody in the secondary that can cover passes? So that's just a prime example of, as camps open this week and into next week, everybody's got question marks. Everybody's got answers to come, and that includes the Rams. That includes the Chargers. That obviously includes the Raiders. We'll be talking more and more about that, with apologies in advance. I know everything about everything in the NFL, and we're going to talk about it on my podcast. Maybe not on his talk show, but on my podcast, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's go think about Davante. He's older. Let's assume he went to the Jets. I mean, the window of opportunity for the Jets is only a couple of years. I mean, how old is Aaron Rodgers?
They were 38, maybe.
Yeah. So you've got a 1 or 2 year window. So I can see maybe Davante going to the Jets if the Jets need more help. But the Raiders could probably flip him for, a number one and maybe another player.
Okay, that's where we are. How about another here on Fans Forum, and then we'll go to social media.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. Lee, has there been any movement on the RSN home front recently? Regional Sports Network. Starting to wonder if the Ducks, Kings, and Clippers have contingency plans in place with KCAL, KTLA, KCOP, along with the San Diego market.
Well, the Regional Sports Network bankruptcy with Diamond Sports is going back before an administrative judge. I think it's on the 21st or the 31st of July. But this thing is really entwined, in Major League Baseball is battling the way the bankruptcy hearings are being held, because it's like Diamond Sports is just asking for delay after delay after delay so they can continue to
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.